Welcome to American Exceptionalism on New Right Network with your host, Kevin Fobbs and Susan Swift. Get ready to transform your life and have the doors of make-believe media blown away with an hour packed with American Exceptionalism, founded by faith and fire, as we counter liberal political persecution and preach the political gospel while we explore the coming American resurrection. Your voices will be heard. Silence is betrayal. Welcome to American Exceptionalism, and today we have a fascinating show. Today, this is actually the march to the midterms, the deadline for you to take back this nation, keep it safe, keep it secure under President Trump. And in the House especially, we have some challenges. So we're going to know and talk about today is how is America's future at stake here on Midterm Tuesday? This actually can be, some may say, the best of times or even the worst of times. The nation is in your hands, and according to recent polling data, as well as national and state early election voter turnout, there are 36 million voters that have already voted. They've already cast their vote. Now that's up 2 million from Monday. And in addition to that, what we're seeing is actually a possibility of 100 million voters who will vote in totality in this midterm election. In addition to that, the 2018 midterm elections will be the most expensive in the history of this nation. According to the Center of Responsive Politics, that will be $5.2 billion with a B, billion dollars spent in this year's midterms, breaking the previous record of $4.4 billion, which we thought was unbreakable in 2016 during the presidential election, according to Business Insider. Now, what does that really mean? There are literally dozens of razor-close Senate and House races, and including the gubernatorial elections all across this nation. And with historically high turnouts and historically high close elections, that equals a lethal combination to the positive or to the negative for this nation. And when you think about this, this is actually much more valuable, much more at stake here in the midterms and even during the presidential elections, some are saying. Now, what's driving this? What's driving this is possibly fair, booming economy, legal immigration caravans, the Kavanaugh Act. That's a big deal because of the two recent comments by those who lied to the Senate, and we'll talk about that a little bit too. But the alleged racial animosity that liberals are accusing Republicans and President Trump of having, Christian and conservative winning on issues that matter. That's something that's also possibly driving this turnout today. Some or all of the above. We're going to talk about that today on American Exceptionalism with Susan Swift, my co-host, and myself, Kevin Fobbs. Welcome to the show. Susan.
Hey, Kevin.
Hey.
It's the day. This is
Today's
it.
the day. Absolutely.
I know. It's all been, up until now, it's all been make-believe media. It's all been the polling and how to shape opinion and maybe help out Democrats with fundraising. It's all been make-believe. They make up the news and they make you believe it. Up till now. Today is the day when the votes actually get cast. Nobody knows. Everybody is now hedging bets, and I think what Nate Silver says, well, it's 88% likely that the Democrats will take the House. Okay. And everybody's kind of walking things back and moving things around. Everybody's polls are kind of shifting because nobody knows. Nobody knows what America's going to do. And up until now, it's all been make-believe. That's the frustrating thing, I think, for everybody in America. We used to, at least, when I was a really little girl, my mom and dad would watch, Walter Cronkite. And, I would sit there on the floor and listen, and, we would see what at least was much closer to news than it is now. It was fairly objective, not 100%, but it was much more civil, and it was much more presented, a little closer to the truth. We don't know what to believe anymore. That's why so many Americans are going to social media for their news, talking to neighbors, Twitter, Facebook, even Instagram. I mean, they're just going anywhere else. They're going around the make-believe media. And yet what we're seeing today, we're going to see today, how does the make-believe media still have what it takes to sway an election? Because that's what's on the line today is Trump versus the media. That's today.
You know what's fascinating too, Susan, is that with $5.2 billion. I mean, that's almost mind-staggering when you think about the amount of money spent.
Yeah, and the Democrats are worried about the deficit. Give me a break. Deficit doesn't matter. Well, this is all paper money. $5.2 billion with a B. That's all changing hands. You know what? The one good thing about that, it's all in the private sector. It's, consultant advertising and business and all of that. It's at least in the private economy. It is not, it's not the state in the gulag, and taking private money out of circulation and funneling to the government. So at least we've got a very healthy economy in that sense. It is private. And guess what? We get to spend as much as we want.
Well, the other thing too, I think about private money, especially looking at the elections, midterm elections, what that really is buying for, the consumer actually being the person who's going to be the beneficiary, i.e. The politicians or the politicals. But the other thing I think about too is in that messaging, what are you really hearing? And, I talked earlier about the fear factor, and that's a lot of fear. Because, when you think about politics and people going to the polls, they are more motivated to go based on fear than in our case, in terms of looking at a booming economy. You have the tendency to
offended originally by the allegations of Christine Blasey Ford, blah blah Ford. That's what I'm a talker. I can't stand that she would lie like this. I'm now convinced that there was no evidence. Chuck Grassley, the Senate majority, he has come out with the report now. Yeah. Finally, on the eve of the election, right? We now have the report, 414 pages long, that says, yeah, we've done a huge investigation. We've over 25 written statements we've interviewed like 45 people or more, and we have found no evidence to corroborate what Christine blah blah Ford said. No evidence whatsoever. So now we can be reasonably sure that Dianne Feinstein dug up this report and threw a Molotov cocktail basically into the Kavanaugh confirmation hearings, specifically and solely for political value. She was making it up. It's make-believe media. They make it up and they make you believe it. So that whole episode, Kavanaugh, was a made-up smear, and it did get the attention of a lot of suburban women, a lot of white suburban women like myself, right? And we all sat up and took notice for a while and said, "Who is Kavanaugh? Is he an abuser? Really, is he?" And the whole world kind of took a breath. And then it's been proven now that there was nothing there. There's nothing there. And so a lot of women, I think, are disgusted. At least any woman who's married to a man or has a son or a brother or maybe a father, they should be very, very offended by what happened. And Trump was able to capture that at one of his rallies, where he stood up and, the media said, "Oh, you're mocking her." Well, no, he was just actually going back through the recitation of fact so that people would actually hear it. So that the media doesn't report it. They run around it. They don't report what he's saying, but he got through with this big rally, and that really offended the media. And now they're telling him, well, he should be talking about the economy, not Kavanaugh, not the campaign, the caravan. Because the caravan is the other issue that really converts white suburban women to vote for Republicans. Because look, we already know the two young 20-something girls, they were killed by illegal immigrants. This happens fairly routinely now in California, and we're seeing that. Oh, and that, remember, Senator Warren was so insensitive that she said, after this mother had lost her daughter who had been killed by an illegal immigrant who should not have been here, right? And then Senator Warren commented about, that she feels really bad about it, but you know what? It's just wrong that we're separating children from their families at the border. It's like, woman, are you tone deaf? Have you been smoking something that, is in your peace pipe? Because you're talking to a mother who just, her daughter was taken from her by an illegal immigrant.
Right.
We can reunite children and invaders after they clear customs and we send them back. They still have their children.
Right.
Not the victims of crime. So the issue of illegal immigration, building a wall, making everybody play by the same rules, that appeals to a lot of Republicans and a lot of Democrats. normal
Yeah.
Democrats and aren't
Right.
ideologues. And that's what we're seeing. The make-believe media is just making all of this up, and they don't want Trump talking about Kavanaugh. They don't want him talking about the caravan or illegal immigrants because it's working.
Well, here's the thing too, and that has not been talked about, but because I spent a lot of time in the political realm for over several decades,
And
I
that's
can
why
say
we love you. Great.
is that think about what you've not heard. And I always look at the things that are not covered by the press and not heard about. And in this election, you've not heard a single person talk about what the impact of the black vote on the midterms. You haven't heard that because you have a growing number of black people who are supporting the president, 36% as of August. But the other thing too, in the Kavanaugh effect, and I think that's interesting as well, and I'm surprised that Jesse Jackson and all the race baiters did not pick up on that. And this issue of proven or guilty until proven innocent, that has been used against black people, especially going back to like the 1800s and in the early 20th century. And look at how many black people were convicted of crimes that they did not commit.
And also the ugly thing that still is lurking around it was used against black men who were accused of improprieties with white women. There was a whole thing about that, and it was unfair. And they targeted black men and made people believe that about black men. That was long, long ago.
Well, I look at the whole, the whole idea of what our nation is built upon, due process, and I look at the young. I remember reading and studying and hearing from my grandfather about the black kids who were lynched. I mean, you can see the pictures. Just Google them, and they're there. Black women who were lynched, who were pregnant, and they were made guilty without any due process. So what I'm saying is that the Kavanaugh hearing for the black community, instead of what was not covered, I'm just saying what should have been covered, and that is the whole idea of due process. And that's why you don't see a lot of black people talking about it in the mainstream media, because that's an issue that actually can galvanize black people as well in terms of being conservative and wanting this whole idea of due process, why it's so essential. So I think you're going to see that factor being played out in the vote today during the midterm.
That really impacted me, what you said. I mean, that they would, lynching. And it's also, I mean, it reminds me that when we say, well, like Kavanaugh was lynched, actually, that was not a lynching. That was just a media attack. The man was, he wasn't really lynched, like what you're saying. And it just upsets me so much that you're right. There's an entire history that black people know and remember and know that they're, their brothers, their sisters, people who look like them have been, beaten and killed and lynched in in torturous, evil ways. And I hope they do recognize it's a very, very pale reflection. It's nothing like what they've gone through, but you're absolutely right. The denial of due process, the unfairness. And I hope that they see what the Democrats really are. I mean, the Democrats were the slave owners. They are the party of slavery, and here they are the party of no due process, even for a white man, for a white man, and that because they finally have revealed themselves. But I'm sorry, the picture of pregnant women lynched. I mean, that's sick. That's sick, and that's what the Democrat Party is. And I hope that enough black voters realize and that they can see the modern day Democrat Party hasn't changed. It hasn't changed. It hasn't evolved. It hasn't become, enlightened. It's the same old slave-owning, segregationist, bigoted, horrible party that it's always been. They're just attacking. This time they happen to be attacking a white guy because the white guy is a conservative who would actually help fix the problem. And that's why he merits their ire. And it's just so frustrating that people don't know history like you do.
Well, I try my best. I try my best.
You're wonderful. Sorry, but
Oh, no, no. One of the things that, I remember my grandfather and my father talking about, my father talking about his brother and my grandfather talking about his son, who was lynched. And that's something that was back in the 40s, or early 40s. And I remember my grandfather and my father talking about him going to war, my grandfather going to war 101 years ago, actually, in World War I, and actually 2 years earlier, 15 people were lynched in that area in Louisiana in 1915. So what I'm saying is that, we have this legacy of fighting for due process. This legacy is not just a legacy of fighting for due process, but it's talking about what it means to be for equality itself. And, I looked at Kavanaugh and I felt, just the pain and anguish that he was feeling. And I know millions of Americans felt that as well, both black and white. And I think both men and women. And, there are a lot of issues that we're going to be fighting for today in terms of the midterms. And I did vote, so you guys know.
I did too. I did too.
So we voted, and this is an impactful. It's not about fear. It's about firming up America. And it's that essential.
You've got to think about. Look, what do you want? Do you want a whole lot of gridlock? You want to roll back the tax cuts? Do you want to roll back all of the progress with North Korea internationally? You want to roll back all of the progress on the border and immigrations, all that? You want to roll it back, and you want to have just absolutely, do you want to have 2 more years of just absolutely divisive, vicious attacks coming from the left? Or do you want to maybe vote for something that, I know they're rhinos and they're a little squishy. I know that. Gosh, I know. But at least, you know what? The squishy ones you can at least, push over to say, you know what? You need to do the right thing. At least the squishy ones are malleable. Democrats, if we fail to vote, or if we vote for any Democrat, we are voting for just an increase in the viciousness. What Hillary Clinton said, that we are not going to be civil. That we're going to have more and more, basically brown shirts coming out, SEIU types coming out and intimidating. We're voting for intimidation if we vote for Democrats, or if we fail to vote for Republicans, even the squishy ones. That's what we're voting.
Hey, exactly. I look at this, numbers matter. And right now, the Republicans in the House, they had 41 retirements, and there were 23 districts that they're defending. These are in districts that Clinton won back in 2016. So the question, I guess, and that we'll see playing out across the nation is, can we hold those districts? And where those districts are does matter. If they're districts in the South, if they're it's highly unlikely, actually, that she won anything in the South. Just look at the map. But there are some of the districts in the Midwest, and as well as in obviously California, and Pennsylvania too, that are up for grabs. And so I think when we look at this election, it's not just about those 23 seats. It really is about the issues where you are dealing with them locally too. Because this is a national election, don't get me wrong. It is a national election because he is on the ballot, President Trump. But where you are, like in California, Susan, where you are, those local issues are going to matter in those particular congressional districts that we need to keep in order to make certain we keep the House.
Mm-hmm. It's true. And it'll, interestingly, in California, because John Cox is a good, solid Republican, a really nice man. I've interviewed him. He's a good, solid man. Because he's on the ballot and actually has, at least a few weeks ago, they said he was within striking distance. He was within the margin of error. I'm hoping that has invigorated a lot of California Republicans. Look, there's more than 1 million registered Republicans in California. If they all turned out, bam, we're done. We could change California. We could turn it red. But a lot of them don't come out to vote. They don't see the point to vote. And then, of course, there's the gerrymandering where they've got, most of the votes are in San Francisco and Los Angeles County. That's where it is. But there are several House seats in California that are now toss-ups, which might tip the balance in the House. So California, for the first time in a long time, may determine a Democrat or a Republican majority, which is really interesting. That's a sea change. So I'm hoping, of course, that in all of the, in the flyover country between San Francisco and Los Angeles, and all of those, most of them are red anyway. I hope that we hold on to every one of those the House seats, and hopefully a few more of the ones that are on the edge. I hope California can turn the balance. That would be fabulous. So
Well, here are, I get there's several there, as you mentioned. These are considered toss-ups, so that you guys in California, in Denham in California 10, in the 10th district, Knight in the 25th. The one that's open is actually Royce, so you really have to really fight for that. So
Knight is a pro-lifer. I mean, they've been running ads, even though I'm not in that district. I'm hearing him in Los Angeles County that he is very, very pro-life, and that he will vote to protect unborn, babies. So that's huge. And they're actually running ads that say it, which is great.
Again, we're going to go through some of these because I think it's important for you to know. In 45, California 45 district, Walters is a toss-up. So we got to really hold that as well. The other thing too, when you look at in Arizona, that's a big deal because McSally, who's running for the U.S. Senate, her seat is open, and it's leaning Democratic. So that means it's important for us as Republicans in Arizona too, to really make certain we hold that seat, because it's right now she's in a dead heat with Sinema, who's running as a Democrat in terms of the Senate.
Oh, you mean a communist?
Yeah, the communist. Yeah, the socialist communist. Yeah, that one.
Not Democrat. There's no such thing as a Democrat anymore. That's like unicorns. They don't exist.
We have to hold McSally's seat in Arizona, and that's up as well as Halloran's. That's leading Democratic, and that's another one that's in the Arizona 1 that we have to pay attention to as well. One of the things too in Michigan, which is my old stomping ground, the 11th is open, and Trot. So we want to make certain that it's important. There's a couple others in Michigan that are being challenged as well, but this one, that's an open seat. So we got to make certain in Michigan that we keep that one too. I want to switch down to, let's see, California. And we did California. That's a toss-up, actually. Those that we're talking.
Yeah, I know. That's because we're, they're out. The commies are out registered from 3 to 1. The commies beat us 3 to 1 on registration. I know I call them Democrats, but the good thing. This is from Real Clear Politics regarding California. This is what a scenario that might play out that would allow Republicans to hold the House. And what they're suggesting is one of the scenarios is in California that we could have very low Hispanic turnout, which would enable Republicans to hold the 10th district in the Central Valley, and then have Steve Knight just squeak out a win in the northern area of Los Angeles. They're saying it could be that Dana Rohrabacher defies the odds and keeps his seats, but that Republicans would lose the 49th district, which most analysts have had leaning towards Democrats for quite some time, and also lose 2 remaining Orange County seats. I hope not. That would be the 39th and the 45th. So that's a Real Clear Politics kind of snapshot of California. If it holds. Again, we're California is a little bit of a different case, but nationwide, it's a toss-up. It really is. We don't know. And of course, the media is not helping us, because the media has an agenda. They make it up, then they make you believe it. And so they've been using polls and things, playing wishful thinking for a couple of reasons, to depress turnout too, right? They don't want Republicans to come to the poll. They don't want to even say that you even have a chance, because they'd rather have to look, just stay home, don't bother. It might be snowing where you live. Well, why come out, right? They don't want you to come out because low turnout would help the Democrats. At least that's the logic that they would see right now. If what's threatening them is the notion that because of the Kavanaugh hearing, because of the caravan, because of Trump's fabulous economy, because of the viciousness of the Democrat and the media attacks on Trump and on good people, that you have poked the sleeping giant, the conservative majority, the silent majority from days of old, and that people are actually turning out when they haven't before. That's a threat to the Democrat, polling model, and the idea that they can hang on, that they can get those 23 swing votes and gain the House.
Well, staying with this whole idea of saving the House, but at the same time saving the nation. One thing that's important, I don't know about California, but I do know about Michigan and Ohio and also Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, that one is especially important because the court rejected, and they have a Democratic governor there, the redrawing of the congressional map. So that it's been done in favor of the Democrats. And that's important because some of those close races, like there was one that was in Pennsylvania that went to the Democrats in a close election that was won by Trump in the old district, now redrawn to favor Democrats. We have to make certain that we understand just where, number one, where your district is, because sometimes it may not even exist, or the polling place. That's important. But the other thing is making certain that you hold those local races, especially the governor's office, because that will help determine what you will be looking at in terms of voting in 2020 and 2022. And the other thing,
all the gerrymandering, it
yeah.
all depends on who gets the vote.
Yeah, and that is crucial. So that's why these elections do matter, especially in the midterms, because we're not just saving the nation, but we save the nation by saving our state as well. And we save our state and our communities by making certain that the judges, because remember that the Supreme Court will determine that in your particular state whether or not that gerrymandering that's done will actually benefit Republicans or benefit Democrats. Pennsylvania is benefited Democrats because the Supreme Court, unfortunately, is being held. The majority are Democrats.
Yeah, but we got two new justices now.
Yeah, but nationally,
it'll take time. It has to take time to go back up. I know, but
yeah, and that'll, the thing is, one of the things that I think about is in terms of the sovereignty clause in the 10th Amendment that helps us, especially because all these electoral matters, unless they're federal, still reside with the state. And it's important for us as state individuals now, putting our state hat on, to realize that where you are in America right now, you're voting for these circuit and district positions in terms of the court. You're also voting for your local court, and you're voting for the Supreme Court too in your state. So you have to be aware. And even right now, you can educate yourself and pick up a ballot, a Republican ballot, and take it with you to the polling place, because it's important. You have several hours all over the nation, but especially if you're in California, you got more time, 3 hours more than we do here in the East. But it's important to make certain that you come armed at the voting, when you're voting today, make certain you have that. You got to keep that with you. Don't just guess. You don't want to guess wrong.
Do your homework. And it's important to know what's at stake if the Democrats win the House. There's a lot at stake if they win the House. Just imagine that Nancy Pelosi has the gavel,
Yeah.
Queen Pelosi with the gavel. She can't even put 3 sentences together anymore. I mean, the Botox has gone to her brain, right? And there are other key positions. I know that that, Kevin. I mean, like Elijah Cummings. He might end up being the House Oversight Committee chairman. That would be, and they've all promised. Look, the House has promised to reopen investigation into the Russia hoax. We know Russia's a hoax because Hillary was the one who colluded with Russia and ended up helping get them, the Uranium One deal. Just the 20% of our uranium, which is a very key ingredient in making nuclear bombs to wipe people off the planet, we've now determined through a treaty that she enabled, that are going to Russia, which is crazy. And she got, the Clinton Foundation got some money. I mean, Peter Schweitzer's written a whole book about it. That's the collusion that we should be investigating.
Right.
But now they're going to open up the Russia investigation with, Michael Steele's dossier on the golden showers, which is all a hoax, which was paid for by Hillary Clinton's campaign through Perkins Coie down to Fusion GPS, and it was all made up. It's make-believe media. They made it up and then they make you believe it. That's literally what happened with the Steele dossier and the whole Russian. That was the insurance policy.
Right.
The two lovebirds at the FBI were talking about, Strzok and Lisa Page. And that's the collusion right there. That's Russia collusion. They're going to open that up again, but it's all going to be about Trump. And then they're going to go back into, they've also promised, Pelosi's promised, and so has Maxine, I think, Waters, they're going to go after Kavanaugh. They're going to reopen that and they're going to impeach Kavanaugh. Now, you haven't heard that in the last few days because they know that Kavanaugh, that whole scenario, as we've discussed, helps turn out Republican voters, but they've already said it. They've promised they're going after Kavanaugh. So those are just two things that are issues that are at stake. And of course, they're going to roll back any of the tax cuts because Nancy Pelosi says that they're just crumbs and we don't need them anyway. So she wants all those crumbs back because we don't need those crumbs. Just a few things. And can you imagine Adam Schiff, our own darling here in California, Adam Schiff, I think Rush Limbaugh calls him pencil neck. Anyway, so pencil neck would be the House Intelligence Committee head, and so it'll be Russia, Iran, and Syria. I mean, that's all he'll deal with, right? And I just, that's a nightmare to me. That's an absolute nightmare, and it's all coming down to who you vote for in your state at your local election, because your congressman, your congresswoman is going to be one of the key players that tips the balance. And if you vote for a Democrat, you're voting for Nancy Pelosi to hold the gavel. Yeah.
Yeah. Now think about this. There are 4 committees. There are several committees besides those as well, but these are important. I want to deal with Madcap Maxine first.
Stay woke. Stay woke. I want y'all to stay woke. And you go after them at the restaurants, and you don't let them sleep because you ain't gonna tell them that we're gonna let everybody stay woke.
Yeah, that one. Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, I know I probably put some of these ears out. I can't. I am mocking her because it is just vicious of her to send goons out to people's homes and restaurants to harass people and scream at people. I think that's beyond the pale. She's going out.
Think about what another horrifying image is that as chairman of the House Financial Services Committee, she has the power to hold up all bills. All, not just 1, 2, department, all. And she has the power to subpoena. And so she will direct what happens to the president's agenda, the total agenda, okay?
The wall is gone. The
wall's gone. Further tax cuts for the middle class, gone. Every aspect of America, energy, gone. Energy independence, gone. And that's just one committee. That's her as the House Financial Services Committee chair, if we lose that house. The thing about and this is another one, Elijah Cummings. Now, most people who have followed this miscreant in Congress know that he is like one of the most clueless individuals that I have ever seen to be in charge of anything, in terms of a congressional seat or a committee. But he will be the oversight committee chairman. And he will have, this guy, if you think about impeachment and investigations and subpoenas of all agencies, now think about this, he will be able to tackle the entire breadth and width of the government, in addition to the White House. That means he'll be sitting, week after week or day after day, subpoena after subpoena, investigation after investigation, not doing anything for America, but just making certain that he keeps the White House, the president, from doing things that make us great in America. Those are the 2. Now, intelligence, as Susan mentioned, Adam Schiff from California. This guy, it's like, not only is he, you think about a person who worked for the Justice Department. He did have some background. I wonder, did he just carry coffee for, the leaders or whatever? I don't know.
Donut boy.
Yeah, donut boy. But I do know.
I'm sure he worked real hard at his desk, wherever.
Yeah, he would be dangerous. Dangerous, because this guy will be controlling all the investigations in terms of intelligence. That means not just in terms of Russia, not just in Syria, not just in terms of England, in terms of trade deals that, quote, might look suspicious to him and tying in Trump, or Germany, but what's happening on the continent too, in Africa or in South America in terms of Venezuela.
And Israel.
Yeah, and Israel, especially Israel.
Yes.
You're absolutely right.
That's the whole Palestinian Israel that will enable, that will destroy so much of the the intelligence and the good tight relationship that we have with the Israelis. He can undermine that, can't he?
Oh, absolutely. He not only would undermine it, he would try to destroy it, because that's the nature of Adam Schiff. And again, it does take much for us to understand what the model that they're using. But he's made it very clear All these guys have made it very clear. The one that's important, of all importance, because they're all important, trust me, but Jerry Nadler. Now, most of you don't know him because he's a forgettable individual.
Jerry Forgettable Nadler. All right,
Yeah.
I like that. Jerry Forgettable Nadler.
He's from New York State, and he's important because he has promised, he has guaranteed that as the next incoming Judiciary Committee here, he will actually begin the articles of impeachment against the president.
Oh yeah.
Okay?
And
Because,
all of the judiciary. That's Kavanaugh. That's how you get Kavanaugh off. In fact, this is one of the powers of the Congress that have never really been exercised, and should be. We should be impeaching judges who violate the Constitution. These activist, Democrat, liberal judges who ignore our Constitution. This would be, the Judiciary Committee would be the way to do that, to challenge, to bring up a judge and to investigate whether his recent decision had, compromised the Constitution. There's a way to do this. But to think about a Democrat heading that up, as you said, Jerry Forgettable Nadler, on the Judiciary Committee, yeah, he'll just draft articles of impeachment against Trump. He'll start with Trump. That's Monday. And then Tuesday it'll be Kavanaugh. And then Wednesday it'll be Gorsuch. And then, we'll just keep going down. And he will tackle every conservative, strict constructionist judge that's on any bench in any federal court anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If he will actually kind of bring a new definition to what a witch hunt really means.
Yep.
This guy, Nadler. So you put him on your radar because he has already guaranteed it. It's not a promise. He has assured you that this is going to happen. He's going to nail the president and all imagined issues, period. Doesn't really matter. It's important for you to understand that. So you have House Intelligence, you have Judiciary Committee, and you have the Oversight Committee, and you have the Financial Services. So you have those 4 committees, very powerful.
And they'll shut down. They will shut down the House of the House of Representatives as far as governing. Now we'll probably keep the Senate. We might pick up a few seats. So we might end up with 54, 55 seats. So all right. They can bring articles of impeachment all day long, and the Senate's just going to go, and so. But what that means is you're voting for gridlock. You're voting for harassment, and you're voting for the nonstop media reporting on, well, today Jerry Forgettable Nadler filed another suit against Donald Trump and his minions. I mean, that's all we're going to hear about every day. It won't mean anything as far as getting Trump actually out of office, but it will absolutely paralyze the agenda, as you said, because with Mad Maxine and Adam Schiff and Elijah Cummings and, Nancy holding the gavel, nothing's going to get through the House, nothing whatsoever.
Right.
But it will do, all of this will do is it will enable and give fuel to the make-believe media. We're going to hear just endless extolling of the virtues of the Democrat Party, how they're uncovering new evidence of Russia hoax and new evidence of judicial improprieties that demand the recusal or the pulling of the justice, so and so. We're going to impeach this justice. That's all you'll hear in the news. That's all you'll hear. You're not going to hear about the economy like we did this weekend. The economy is banging.
Incredible news.
Right.
Yeah.
It's fabulous. You're not going to hear about how this economy, how Trump is benefiting Hispanics, blacks, women, men, anybody, any group you want to say. Everybody's getting work. Everybody's doing better under a Trump administration. They won't need to report that news anymore, right?
No.
Because they'd rather not. They're just saying that to get Trump off his message of the border, which is a winning. That was what won him the presidency in the first place, and he's back to that to win the midterms. But they won't have to. They'll just be talking. They'll have microphones in Jerry Forgettable Nadler's face all day long. Say, Jerry, would you please tell us the current status of the impeachment trial of Justice Kavanaugh, and what's taking you so long? Because we have Christine blah blah Ford, who's ready to testify again now that she's got her mind right, and she'll have some new evidence. Yeah. That's all we'll hear all day long. Scary. It just makes me think about it.
And getting to your point, Susan, I think the question is, this election is really about the soul of America. Yes. But you know what? We as Republicans, conservatives, and Christians, we have a different view of what the soul of America really is. Of course, Democrats and liberals have a different view of what the soul of America is, right?
Yes, they do. I think the Democrats just want, they want really to enslave. I know this is strong language, but hey, when have I ever pulled a punch? They want to enslave regular, everyday, working class Americans and take their money. They
Yeah.
want they want to redistribute the wealth. They want to transform America. This is all, former President Barack Obama speaking, right? They want to use our money for their free stuff, free phones, free this, free, and we're not allowed to complain. We're not allowed to wave our flag. For goodness sakes, we're going to have to get rid of the flag at any, football game, right? Or any baseball game. We probably ought to get rid of the national anthem and anything else too. That's what the Democrats see us as their slaves, their economic slaves.
Yeah.
We're just going to be working for them, and they'll raise the taxes back up. They believe that all, especially white Christian males, those people who look like the founders of America from 200 years ago, those evil white Christian males, the stale pale male, they need to be imprisoned, or at least so economically shackled that they can never change America back again to a prosperous nation, right? We have to.
And they don't believe that they deserve any kind of free speech or anything. I mean, period. As Americans, that they want free stuff, but you can't have free speech.
No, free stuff, not free speech.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
Exactly.
And they want, if you visit their homes, of course they have locks on their windows, their doors, and everything else, but no locks
guns.
on the border.
But no guns.
No guns and no locks on the borders.
No locks on the borders. And this is an off thing, but there's a black mother with children, and I think it was a black guy breaking into her house it was like last week, and he was breaking at the door. She got her shotgun, and she yelled at the door. She said, "If you come into my house, I've got a gun and I'm going to shoot you." Right? And he broke down the door, and she shot him. Yay! And you know what? That if she had not had a right to have a gun, if the Second Amendment had not been there, if she had not had a right to have a gun, just like back in the day, way down in the South, where black people were not allowed to own guns, right? Why?
Or Chicago.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, but you can protect yourself, and back in the day, this was the KKK, the arm of the terrorist arm of the Democrat Party, could just ride through your neighborhood, drag you out of your house, drag your husband out of the house, right? And you couldn't do a darn thing because you didn't have any guns. Well, here's this mother of young children. She just blasted some guy, and I'm so glad she did, because she has a right to stand her ground. I know Democrats like that. Black women have a right to stand their ground with a gun in their house, and I'm glad she did it. And that's all gone. We're going to get rid of. Look, if Democrats, God forbid they actually gain the Senate. God forbid, because if they do, they're going to wipe out the Second Amendment. Or they're already licensing bullets out here in California. Seriously, you get 10 days to get a bullet, because bullets kill people, right? Just like guns do, Okay, you have to put a bullet in the gun, and you actually have to put the gun in somebody's hand. But it doesn't matter. They're just trying to take away the Second Amendment until they can repeal it. That's what it's all about. Right,
reduce, and then take it away. And I'm going to make 2 points that you mentioned about that Second Amendment. Back in the 1960s, in Louisiana, there was a group called the Deacons of Defense, and they were pastors and deacons that stood against the Klan, against the Democrats, and it became a national issue, and it's been kind of hidden. Done about a pretty good movie. But the reality was that they stood up and they decided that because they had the Second Amendment right to do that, and that you had the sheriff, the Democrat, you had the townspeople, Democrats, who were trying to take it away, and they were burning down churches and they were burning houses down as well. And these guys stood up for what they believed in terms of what the promise of the Constitution and the Second Amendment, and they won. They drove the Klan out of that area of Louisiana. So that's important. The other thing, I mentioned Chicago a moment ago, because in Chicago, the Second Amendment was like invisible. So you had this one guy, remember, he was, these guys were breaking in, and the only thing he had to drive them out was a broom. A broom, literally. I mean, think about that.
I'm not laughing at him, but yeah, that makes sense because you can't get a gun in Chicago,
Yeah.
right? Only
So
the criminals can find the guns on the street in the black market.
Yeah.
Right?
So I mean, that's how ludicrous, this is the level of stupidity that we will be facing when you have Democrats in the House. And of course, oh my God, forbid in the Senate, because not only will you not be able to defend yourself, you'll be just like China or Nazi Germany. Oh yeah, let's see, socialists. That does ring a bell, doesn't it, for the Democrats? So again, think about the personal impact on you and your family. This is what we're talking about in this midterm election. Their soul, what America's soul is for them, is unbelievable. They believe that you don't have a need to defend yourself. Your neighborhood, your house, or the border, open access, easy access to the invaders. That's what they believe in. That's their idea of what the soul of America is. And they believe, we saw with the Kavanaugh, that all women, even if they lie, even if they have the challenges or whatever the issue is, that they're to be believed. I'm not saying that what happened to some of these women did not occur, because I won't say that because it's not true. But what is true, that 2 women who lied against Kavanaugh now are under criminal consideration.
Yeah, and they've admitted they lied.
And they admit it.
Avenatti, this attorney Avenatti, who I think did he lose his office because he couldn't pay his rent?
He's in a lot of debt, my friend. So he's gonna run for president.
He's having trouble keeping the doors open. I read something. I'm sorry, I don't have it.
Yeah, he's like the governor. He's like the governor, the gubernatorial candidate in Georgia. She said, she has $200,000 in debt and climbing, and so she has these fundraisers. It's like, I want to take care of your state, but first you got to take care of me. Yeah, go fund me.
Oh, well, look, I mean, blah, blah, Ford, Christine blah, blah, Ford, what does she end up? She's got $1 million GoFundMe page, and she's got a book deal coming. A book deal. I mean, my gosh, all you have to do, see, and that's because that goes way back even before Anita Hill. But
yeah.
the message there is any Democrat woman must be believed. No matter what.
No matter what.
Women are clean, pure, wind-driven snow, angels, purity incarnate. Before the fall, they always tell the truth. And they're not nasty, and they don't get into cliques at high school either. And they're really sweet and kind, and they always make cookies. Right.
Yeah.
Come on. We all know, we've been in through high school. We all know those girls who were nasty and said mean things and targeted, other girls, or they ran in little clubs and gangs and just made life miserable for boys. We know what little teenage girls can do. They're, the 6th graders through the 12th graders. Women can be vicious. And but right now, because they're Democrat women, they're to be believed. Now, all the Republican type women who were accusing William Jefferson Clinton of rape and abuse, well, Juanita Broderick, she can't be believed. Let's push her off the front page. We can't believe any of the women who accuse Democrats of any impropriety whatsoever, much less rape, when we actually have physical evidence like a bitten lip, and we know all of that. None of that matters, because conservative women do not tell the truth. Only Democrat women tell the truth, and only when they're telling truth about a conservative white male, or in the case of Justice Clarence Thomas, he was black, but you have to count him as white because he's conservative. If you're conservative, you're not really black. We all know that. You're Uncle Tom, and you're not allowed to claim the mantle of saying, I am a conservative and I'm black. You can't do that. So if you're accusing a conservative man, so long as you're a Democrat woman, you must be believed all the time, no matter what. It's just so political. It doesn't just make you mad. I hate the hypocrisy of it. We're not supposed to question. We're not supposed to, through the law, go through it and look at the evidence and weigh evidence and say, well, I know what you said, but there's absolutely nothing on the other side, and I've got to make a decision. The Democrats want me as a woman to vote, to weigh the scales of justice with my genitalia.
Right.
Right? I mean,
Right.
that, the woman, you know, the figure of justice holding the scales with a blindfold on. She's not supposed to see what's in scales. You know, how is she doing that? She's doing it with her genitalia somehow. I don't know how that statue needs to be redrawn, but that's what they're saying.
Or you know what, Susan, is that statue transgender according to Democrats?
There you go. You know, justice is transgender. It's got to be. Yeah, it's got to be, because you're not allowed to weigh the balance of, you know, as lawyers say, the weigh the balance of perjury. That's what happens in a trial. It's weigh the balance of perjury. Okay. But you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to do that. You're supposed to absolutely, from the minute that you know that she's a woman and she's a Democrat, she's preaching the gospel according to, you know, Pelosi. That's it.
Right. Right.
And it's offensive to me as a lawyer. It's offensive to me as a mother, as a woman. It just really bugs me. But that's what we're going to have. We're going to have so much more of that. All we're going to see is, can you just, do you remember when Trump won the election 2 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
And all of the media faces, you know, up until then they were like, yeah, it's looking like it's fine. They all had these happy faces. Then all of a sudden, when they realized that Florida was turning and it wasn't going to happen, and their faces just fell. And they looked like, you know, death had just overcome. I mean, just everybody was like, you know, and everybody, and you could feel the air go out of the room, just shoot, just like that. I want, please, America, I want to see that again. I want that replay again tonight. I want to see all these different, you know, liberal talking heads, Mika Brzezinski, and all of these, you know, these, you know, well-glossed, groomed, you know, Rachel Maddow, whoever she is, he is, whatever. I want to see their faces just glum. I want them to not believe that these voters are such cretins as to vote for the Republican Party. That's what they think. They think it is.
Well, one of the things that I want to talk about too, that these gubernatorial races, and I know we don't have a lot of time, but there are 36 races today, and 10 of those are currently held by Republicans. Now, one that I think we should pay attention to is Scott Walker's. There's a couple, but one is Scott Walker. He's running for a third consecutive term, and he's done a tremendous job. He's beat back Democrats time and time.
Times. They keep challenging him every 2 years. Yeah. They just always have a special election just to tie him up.
Yeah, and this time his favorability level in that state is 48%. So he might be vulnerable. It's important for you guys in Wisconsin to really, really turn it out today. It's important because we can't afford to lose that state. We can't afford to lose him as governor as well. And we also have the state superintendent, Tony Evers, who's also up too there. So it's important for us to pay special attention to that state because he's done a great job there in Wisconsin.
Yeah, he's the thorn in the union's side. That's why they hate him so much.
Oh yeah, yeah.
All you have to do is find out who the Democrats hate the worst, and that's the one to vote for. That's really who are they hating? Yeah, just find that and go, okay, that guy or that gal must be good. Like Mick Sally, they hate her too because she's military and she's a woman and she's very conservative. Can't stand. She's in Arizona. We need Arizona.
Another this is another one. This is New Hampshire. Chris Sununu, the son of the former chief of staff to President George H. Bush. And now he's Republican and it's leaning Republican, but it's important that it's in the East Coast, so you wouldn't imagine that there would be anything Republican over there, but he's really done a fine job in New Hampshire, and it's important. That's the first state that, in terms of an actual state primary in 2020, so we want to make certain that we hold that state in terms of New Hampshire. That's interesting, Susan. Connecticut, that's an open seat. And it's held by a Democrat right now, but it's been dismal. I mean, the economy has tanked in Connecticut. And what's interesting is that there's a Republican running there that pretty cool. We may be able to take that seat in Connecticut. So you guys in Connecticut, the Republicans, turn out.
We need a sneak victory there. We need that under the Democrat radar. We need Connecticut to slide in off the radar and become red.
And And for the Democrats in Connecticut, voting is on Wednesday. Just so you
Yes,
see.
that's right. They've changed it, so you
They've
should know.
changed it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
voting's on
So
Wednesday.
keep that. Keep that between us and you, and the others that you're going to tell as well.
Oh, wouldn't it be funny if some Democrat gets their tail in a knot, and starts pointing at Ross and Swifty. You told me that election day was on Wednesday, and you have corrupted my vote, and I'm going to sue you for tampering with my election.
Here's one as a good friend of mine. He's running in Michigan, and Bill Schuette is the Attorney General now. And Bill's not only a wonderful guy, he's a wonderful friend and a wonderful person who's done a lot good for Michigan. And he's a front runner, and it looks like he's going to do well there. But I think it's important to understand that there, especially when you have Democrats who the president took that state, as we all know, in terms of 2016. But you have some guys there who are Democrat, and especially Detroit Mayor Mike Dugan, who's a decent guy. I mean, to be honest, for a Democrat, he's a pretty decent guy. You know him.
For a Democrat.
But
he's pretty decent, for a Democrat.
But he's
for a Democrat. I like it.
Well, it's important to understand that distinction.
It is.
But we have to make certain that we do the same thing for Bill Schuette in Michigan that was done for President Trump in Michigan as well. So
I think you said that Dugan is backing Gretchen Whitmer, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So don't vote for Whitmer. It's easy. Just don't check any Democrat box. Just
you know what? Just do the straight slate. Just make it easy on yourself. Don't get confused.
That's right.
Don't get confused. Don't split any tickets or anything like that in Michigan.
That's right.
Do the right thing. use your head.
I wonder, I don't know how, I've heard a little bit about Rick Scott down in Florida. Up until just days ago, just maybe a week, Florida was under the radar. Because Gillian was isn't he the candidate there?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And recently, Obama went down to, it sounds like the devil went down to Georgia. Obama went down to Florida, right? Looking for some souls to steal. And anyway, he went down there. Old song, millennials won't get it. He went down there to help a rally for Gilliam. And I had seen, this is all through social media, this is not verified or anything, but somebody started circulating a screenshot of what appeared to be a Craigslist posting offering to pay people $15 if they would go attend the rally because they need to, fill the seats for Obama because, Trump's got these huge with Obama.
Thousands and thousands.
Hundreds of thousands of people actually sitting outside in cars waiting to get in, can't get in. And Obama can't draw flies down in Florida. Apparently, I don't know if the Craigslist posting is genuine, but it's making the rounds on social media, and I haven't seen, if it has been confirmed. They might be paying people just to go to that rally. The interesting thing was that Obama at the rally over this weekend, I think it was the McClatchy report, I forget who had it, a 90-second video of, if you want to see Obama unhinged. I mean, he was almost, his arms were going in, he was almost frothing at the mouth, and he was unhinged. And it just shows me the desperation, because all of a sudden now Florida's in the news. Look, Florida is one of the things that's their dream. The dream. They keep Florida and California. They almost have a lock on the presidency, right? But now all of a sudden we're starting to hear a little bit. Well, Gillum, right? They're afraid of losing Florida because Governor Rick Scott is gaining in the polls, and he may pull this out, even despite Obama's unhinged rhetoric at Gillum's rally.
Yeah.
They finally got Obama off of his throne in Hawaii to come out and start campaigning. Now they don't want Clinton anywhere near anybody. Nobody. That's anathema. They've all said keep Clinton away from me. But they do want Obama, especially in southern states, because he wants to rally the Democrat base there. So they're paying folks. Maybe I don't know, to come in and listen to Obama. to preach the
Yeah.
gospel to Gillian. I think that's interesting. So maybe Gillian's not anywhere near as a shoo-in as the media would like us to believe in Florida. So Florida needs to vote. We need to make sure we hold that Governor Rick Scott is the governor in Florida. That would be cool.
Well, you know, the governor, the voting, and I think there's 5 million that have already voted, I believe, in Florida so far. And Republicans tend to vote early there in Florida. The most important
Not
thing is,
often.
yeah, but not often, not like the Democrats.
They vote
And
often.
they don't wake the dead either, like the Democrats do.
And Democrats wait until they can count the votes, and then they they drive in their Priuses with big bags full of absentee ballots and say, "Oh, this is the parking lot. Sorry, I left it." So they always wait to turn in their ballots near the very end.
Well, you know, the Democrats, the ones who carry the votes, who in hiding, they actually bring a big dump truck.
Yeah, I think they do. They do. No, it's really sad that we have to joke about it, but they do. There's always some ballots that turn up at the end, and meanwhile, people who are overseas in the military who have a right to vote, a couple of years ago, was it 4 years ago, their ballots were delayed. It was in it was shocking that a lot of military they couldn't get their ballots, and they couldn't get them back in time to have them count, because we know that the military tends to favor a Republican kind of agenda, the Make America Great Again types would be military. So what they, I think it was 4 years ago, correct me if I'm wrong, there's some sort of really serious problem with getting those votes come in. But you know what? The Democrats always find a bag of ballots near the very after the count has come in, and it's been kind of official, and we know, well, Broward County only won by 254 votes. Well, shazam! Then here's this big bag of like 500 votes that come in that are Democrat. It's upsetting and shocking that we get to play this kabuki theater of and that Democrats also oppose any kind of voter ID because it's racist. I don't know how that, I know in some of their favorite countries, like, Syria and different, I shouldn't say that, but over in the Middle East, people dip their finger in purple ink, and that's a form of voter ID, right? But we can't do that, right? Because that would be racist too, I guess. Purple ink on your finger would be, I guess, a form of racism. I don't know.
Well, I guess Smurfs, maybe.
Yeah, I guess. Well, we have to start, the problem is we have to start chopping off fingers to let them vote again, and that's a little messy. So that's the problem.
And you only limited to vote 10 times.
It's true, unless you just dump the stump. Okay, I'm on. We got to go on. We can't.
Yeah. And in closing,
I'm just sick of the hypocrisy of Democrats.
I know.
Voter ID and all. They're hypocrites. They're absolutely hypocrites. They only want to win by stealth. They don't care how they'll take it any way they can, and stealth is for them.
Today's the day, and as we said, and we were talking all through the program, this march to the midterms is real in this day. It's really a decision day for you and your family, and for this country, and it's really our fate, your fate, actually. That we are dealing with today. It's in your hands, and when we talk about American exceptionalism, we're talking about you. We're talking about it because it's not a phrase to us. It really is about the essence of who we are as Americans, and that spirit, that magical spirit that binds us, that the founders created, that binds us each with every one of us who believe in this future, and it's worth protecting. It really, truly is worth protecting, so that today you can really make that difference, because you can be the difference for your family and for your state and for your nation. So remember, vote. Vote today. Get someone else out there to vote today. Otherwise, your silence is truly betrayal.
Amen.
God bless you, and God bless America.
God bless America.
And next time, we'll be talking about the after effect. What happened, what didn't happen, what did happen, and we're going to have to tackle go forward in this great nation. Bye-bye.